Good morning. So I'd like to introduce Harvey Gilbert to the podcast. Harvey Gilbert is an attorney here in New Jersey. Welcome, Harvey. How are you?
Good to see you, Carolyn.
Good. So Harvey is a real estate attorney. You do other kinds of law, which we'll go into, but your specialty and kind of your relationship with our firm is that you help our clients with real estate law.
Yes.
So we wanted to kind of take this opportunity to kind of get to know you better, and just kind of learn more about what makes you tick, and maybe shed some light on some red flags that could occur in a real estate transaction and how you help your clients. So welcome again. And, I always tell people that, real estate is more than just kind of pretty pictures of houses. There's a whole legal component that you have to take very seriously. Not all states use an attorney in a real estate transaction. And so sometimes I get asked from people who are relocating from out of state, Carolyn, why would I need an attorney? I didn't need to use one, in California, for example. And so I guess let's start off with that question, Harvey. Why would somebody need to use an attorney for a real estate transaction in New Jersey?
Make sure that they're buying what they think they're buying and that there are no errors that have been embedded in the seller's title, which get carried forward again and again and again when a superficial review of a transfer occurs. I suspect that those states which don't use attorneys in order to make the transfer occur use attorneys when the mistakes become evident and now they have to unscramble the problem.
Right.
They then go back and each side gets an attorney, and that's far more difficult, expensive, frustrating, stressful, and it could really impact a great deal on someone's investment of perhaps the largest investment they've made. So I think New Jersey is wise to include us in our transactions because in New Jersey we have realtors who initiate the transaction, attorneys who supervise the objectivities and conditions, and we have title companies which provide the data that gets evaluated so that we have a higher percentage of good, clean transactions without error.
Right. So basically, bottom line is be safe rather than sorry.
I think that when you look at it, in a New Jersey transaction, the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney both are the only two participants who have been hired to help the transaction occur that are objective. Everyone else has got an axe to grind. Everyone else has got an agenda. Everyone else gets paid only when the transaction occurs. So they're going to, don't worry about that. Oh, don't worry about that. Oh, it'll all work out. Don't worry. Let's just go to the closing table. Whereas the attorney will slow it down and say, no, let's make sure this happens the way you want.
Right. Nope. Very, very good description. So, Harvey, just to back up a little bit, so you and I met through the Executive Association of New Jersey. We've both been a member there for, well, myself for 3 or 4 years, but you've been much longer. Why don't you give us a little bit of background? You're originally from New Jersey, and how did you get into law? Give us a quick snippet of your journey.
Oh boy. Well, I've been practicing law in New Jersey for 50 years now. I graduated from Rutgers and went out to Chicago to go to law school. And after law school, I worked a little bit for the state of Illinois Attorney General's office, and then I taught school, and then decided to come back to New Jersey and work in Morristown because when I was a kid, I often passed through Morristown, New Jersey, and I thought it was the best looking town I'd ever seen. And so I had an attachment to Morristown, and I'm glad that I did, because it is a charming place to operate within this community. It's lovely. And it's nicely situated. It gives me opportunity to service the northern half of the state, and that's what I've been doing. Ultimately started as a trial attorney and realized that even when I won my cases, my back hurt and it was just too stressful for me. I didn't like it. I didn't feel that it was constructive. I didn't feel that it was anything but remediative.
Mhm.
It just compensated for an injury with money, which never is adequate. And real estate, I felt I could help build something. I could help make some new thing occur. I could contribute in a meaningful way, and I could see it too. So it wasn't philosophical. It was very tangible and practical, and that's what I liked, and sort of evolved that way.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with you that, we do in a real estate transaction, the end result should be, right? It's not always, there are some issues, but it should be a happy ending where everybody is kind of starting a new chapter, or ending one and moving on to another. And I think, you and I have had quite a few celebrations around the closing table in your office with happy clients. And that is a joy to do that.
The seller gets what the seller wants, the buyer gets what the buyer wants, and everybody hopefully goes home satisfied. And it's nice to be able to contribute to that event. Um, and so it's a nice area of law. It's a very satisfying area of law for me.
Yep. So I guess, in terms of kind of philosophy or kind of your work philosophy, if somebody were to, to be looking for an attorney in New Jersey, a real estate attorney in New Jersey, why would they choose you over another attorney? And what kind of, what do you bring to the table?
Well, Jesus, there are a lot of real estate attorneys in New Jersey.
Yes,
There's
there
billions, and so they can pick a lot of good ones too, and a lot of bad ones. And I think the thing that they should most watch out for is getting Uncle Bob to handle their real estate purchase when Uncle Bob has been a trial attorney for 40 years and doesn't do real estate, but he's got a license and he wants to help out and provide a free service to his nephews. And that's the killer, because Uncle Bob doesn't know what's important and what's not important, what's significant, not significant, and he'll delay the deal and frustrate everybody. And that's I've seen that happen. That despite Uncle Bob's best intent, he's a fish out of water. He doesn't know what to do. We have been doing this for, as I say, 50 years total, and maybe 40 years in real estate as a predominant area of our practice. We do other things, but for the most part, we represent buyers and sellers and lenders, and we represent builders who are changing the use of properties in front of zoning boards and planning boards. So we have a good context within which we understand what our clients are buying if we're representing a purchaser, and what needs to be attended. So our experience plays a significant role, and our regularity in the field also plays a significant role, because we know other attorneys, they know us, and we can work with them. We have an open, usually a very happy relationship, so that we can make it occur on time, at a responsible cost, and nothing gets out of hand. Everything rolls out the way people are expecting it to roll out. So we know what's coming. We know what the title company is going to do. We know what the lender is going to require. We know what the seller is going to be worried about. And so we have a sense of what needs to be attended, and we don't usually get surprised. So I think that's what makes our office um, one of those that should be considered by a buyer or a seller, because we can help them very well, smoothly and efficiently.
Yeah, and I will concur because working with you and your team, especially Ruth on your team, it is super efficient, and you've been navigating through these waters for so long that you see a red flag before anybody does. You're always bringing great insight whenever issues come up. And that's why I recommend you, quite frankly. I think, like you said, there are tons of real estate attorneys in New Jersey. There's only a handful with which I work and that I recommend to my clients. And you are certainly, on top of that list. And I think that you bring a kind of a non-alarmist demeanor to the transaction as well, because it is a stressful time.
Mm-hmm.
And people, they do kind of, get emotional. And it's important to kind of make sure that you are objective and, see the facts and kind of see the different paths that are ahead of you. And you explain them always in a very, logical way. Um, so yes, so I agree with you. Can you, and I think also being in the real estate, space for so long and continuously, it's real estate does change, like every couple of years, there's a new issue that
Oh,
comes up, right? Like
oh.
oil tanks were not a big deal before, but now they are. Now we've got new lead paint laws coming into force. And, some attorneys who don't specialize in real estate, who are, doing criminal law, but then they think that they can do a closing for somebody, they're not aware of these new laws coming down the pipe, and it can create issues. So um, I guess my next question for you, Harvey, would be, is there an anecdote that you could tell us that kind of a cautionary tale, or a client that you helped, out of a difficult situation, just to kind of serve as an example?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, there have been some challenging moments for clients who I can tell you about a woman who was in her 80s and was living in a house in Chester, who was not mindful of the real estate tax bill that she received.
Mm.
She inherited this house from, I believe, her parents, and had lived there a very long time. And she was starting to lose track of things. And one of the things she lost track of was her tax bill. And when the taxes are unpaid, the town will, after a period of time, offer the tax bill for sale to a third party. And there are people and companies that make a business of buying up tax bills. Because when in New Jersey you buy someone's taxes, you technically are entitled not to only be repaid, but you have the title to the property, which can be reclaimed by the original owner. But it's nevertheless in the law that the person that pays your taxes gets title to your house for that 1/4's worth of taxes. So her house was worth something like, I don't remember, 700,000 more or less, and she let first quarter go by, and she let the second quarter go by, and third quarter, and there was maybe a year's worth of taxes purchased by this outfit that does this for a living. And so they had like $12,000 or $15,000 invested in her tax bills. And after a period of time, they're entitled to foreclose their tax purchase as if it were a mortgage, and they haven't been repaid, and no one has given them the money that they laid out, and so they're able to go to court and get the judge to say, I now pronounce you the owner, you're the real owner, you can kick this person out because you own the house. It's a $750,000 house they've just been allowed to buy for $12,000. Pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So at the last minute, her brother, going through some of her paperwork, alerted her to the fact that there were these unpaid taxes, and he brought her into me and said, "What do we do?" And I had no idea that there was a foreclosure action already started. I tried to sell the house. So we sell the house, we get it under contract, and the buyer comes in and says, "Okay, I understand you need some money. I'll give you the 12 grand towards the purchase. Give me credit at the closing, and we'll give you the 12 grand you need to get these taxes paid." The judge wouldn't let that buyer pay those taxes. Wouldn't let the taxes get redeemed without permission from the person that had paid the taxes, because that's what the rules of New Jersey require. New Jersey protects people who come in and pay other people's taxes because they want to encourage the taxes to be paid. So if you pay somebody else's taxes, the law is going to protect you.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so she couldn't sell her property to some buyer and have the buyer take her out of her problem, which is strange. And then I realized, when the person that had paid the taxes was refusing to be repaid at that moment, that they were in litigation, that he had started a foreclosure. So I had to go to court. I had to represent her in a legal action between her and the third party, and I had to get the judge to realize that there was a need to save her from this huge forfeiture of a $700,000 piece of real property, uh, it, it, by someone who has just paid $12,000. That's just not fair. Uh, well, the judge allowed us to redeem the property, but there was a premium on that 12,000. I believe it was an extra $8,000 or $10,000. So she had to pay something like 22,000, perhaps. I don't remember exactly the numbers, but she had to pay a premium in court in order for the judge to order that she be restored to the owner and get these people out of her hair. I mean, it was simply her oversight that caused the problem, but it was a terrible problem. And if she didn't have somebody to stand up for her, she would have lost her $700,000 house within a matter of months. It was just 2 months away from happening. So that was a challenging thing. And she couldn't tell me the facts. So that was another problem. She didn't know that she was in foreclosure, just like she didn't know that she didn't pay the taxes. And so we and ultimately restored the property to her name and got it sold and moved her to some facility that would take care of her.
Yep. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I know that you've had quite a few kind of tax certificate, issues over the years, and that's a pretty drastic one. Just a reminder to pay your property taxes. Well, let's kind of shift over to because the purpose of this video is really for people to get to know you, Harvey Gilbert, as an attorney, but also let's kind of talk about, you've been living in Livingston for, over 20, 30 years.
1978, I moved into Livingston.
And your wife was a school teacher in the Livingston school system.
Right. High school, Livingston High School, and special ed for 25 years, 26 years.
And you raised two boys in town.
Yes, they were They were the product of the Livingston school system, I'm proud to say, and I think they did a good job of educating my little troublemakers.
Right. Well, they're lovely, by the way. I've met both of them. And just to kind of recap here, I mean, you do, cover a wide area, a wide spectrum of people in the real estate sector. So, buyers, sellers, investors,
Yeah,
lenders.
I have a few lenders that make private loans,
Mhm.
and I represent builders who are looking to develop small commercial properties, strip malls, and multifamily. I have a fellow who's doing um, a. I have a fellow who's doing. He's buying a church, and he's going to convert the church and its property to 37 residential units.
Wow. What town is that in?
Asbury Park.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So that's a nice job. He's got a nice architect. It's really very exciting because it's dramatic.
Right, right. I'm part of the Metro Builder Association, and there is a builder there. His name is Bossart. Is that him by
No,
any chance? Okay, all
no,
right,
no.
because he also specializes in renovating churches. And so, yeah, so that kind of piqued my interest. Well, Harvey, thank you very much for hopping on with us. I wanted people to kind of get a sense of who they would be hiring if they hired Harvey Gilbert.
Okay.
Uh, I will give a testimonial that I have used you myself as my attorney for my closing, my mother as well. So um, you come with a very good endorsement, Harvey Gilbert.
Well,
So,
thank you very much, and it's a pleasure. I think to address your clientele, I think we bring balance and judgment to the process, uh, as as well as experience and a desire to make sure that it works out right, works out so that people are smiling. Um, Sometimes it's necessary to make sure people have an understanding of what's important and what's not important. We don't want people to get carried away with what they're entitled to, and they step on their own shoelaces.
right,
You know, sometimes you stand on ceremony and you walk yourself right out of the deal that you really wanted.
right.
So we try and help people find that balance of what's necessary, and if they can't get it, they don't want it, and maybe it's not so necessary because the bigger picture is to get what you want. Ultimately, look long term, not short term.
Well said. Well said. Well, Harvey, I look forward to working with you and our clients over this
Thank
coming
you.
year. And thanks for being on.
Well, appreciate you, Carolyn. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.